What if, tomorrow, a black hole suddenly appeared in our solar system? Not a supermassive black hole, but a stellar mass black hole. Perhaps one with the mass of our Sun, or even just a few times its mass. What would be the first thing we'd notice? How would humanity react? And what would be the ultimate fate of our world? At first, we might not even notice it. Black holes are, by definition, invisible. They emit no light, reflect no light, and are incredibly difficult to detect directly. But their presence, their immense gravitational pull, would soon become undeniable. Astronomers, constantly monitoring the cosmos, would be the first to pick up on the subtle anomalies. Perhaps the orbits of distant planets like Neptune or Uranus would begin to show slight, inexplicable deviations. Or maybe the light from a distant star passing behind the black hole would momentarily dim or distort in a way that couldn't be explained by any known celestial body. This phenomenon, known as gravitational lensing, would be our first visual clue, a ghostly halo of warped starlight hinting at the unseen monster lurking in our cosmic backyard. News of this unprecedented discovery would spread like wildfire. Initial reactions would range from disbelief to panic. Scientists would scramble to confirm the data, running simulations and calculating the black hole's trajectory and potential impact on our solar system. Governments would convene emergency meetings trying to formulate a plan, any plan, to deal with this existential threat. The world would hold its breath, collectively grappling with a reality that was once confined to science fiction. As the second and third days unfold, the black hole's effects would become more pronounced. It would no longer be just numbers on a computer screen. It would be a phenomenon observable with the naked eye. The outer planets, especially Jupiter and Saturn, would begin to wobble in their orbits, like spinning tops losing momentum. The black hole's immense gravity would disrupt the delicate balance that had existed for billions of years, slowly but relentlessly tearing apart the structure of our solar system. Innumerable comets and asteroids, once peacefully orbiting in the Kuiper Belt and Oort cloud, would now be awakened. They would be drawn towards the black hole at high speeds, becoming a torrent of cosmic debris hurtling towards the heart of darkness. Some of them would be flung outwards in various directions, transforming into cosmic bullets ready to collide with any planet in their path. Our Earth would be no exception. And then the most astonishing phenomenon would begin to appear in the sky. The starlight behind the black hole would start to warp, as if viewed through a glass of water or through the shimmering heat rising from a road on a hot day. This phenomenon is called gravitational lensing. It occurs when the black hole's immense gravity bends the path of light, causing it to travel in curves instead of straight lines. The result would be images of stars overlapping, distorting and stretching, forming a beautiful yet terrifying ring of light known as an Einstein Ring. It would be a reflection of the invisible power that was slowly consuming everything in its vicinity. The night sky, once a canvas of deep black adorned with millions of stars, would now transform into a surrealist painting. Stars would appear to dance around an invisible center, their light stretched, distorted, and coalescing into bizarre shapes. It would be a sight both beautiful and chilling, a vision that would make humanity realize that we were not merely observers, but participants in the grandest and most terrifying phenomenon in the history of the universe. As days 4 through 7 arrive, our world would begin to experience the true impact. It would no longer be just changes in the sky, but chaos unfolding on Earth. Powerful earthquakes would become more frequent in many regions. Giant tsunamis would crash onto coastlines. The weather would become severely erratic, with massive hurricanes forming like never before. Global temperatures would fluctuate wildly. Some areas would become scorching hot, making life unbearable, while others would freeze solid. It would be a warning that our world was being torn apart, distorted by a power beyond anything we had ever known. The moon, our nocturnal guardian, would also begin to feel the effects. The black hole's gravity would pull the Moon out of its stable orbit. Even a slight change in the Moon's position would have a catastrophic impact on Earth's oceans. Tides would become unprecedentedly strong, with colossal waves crashing onto land, eroding coastlines and engulfing cities. It would be a vision of a world slowly, yet relentlessly, being destroyed. Amidst the unfolding chaos, humanity would descend into panic. Fear would grip people's hearts. Some would desperately try to survive, others would form groups to seek refuge, while some would turn to religion, searching for answers and hope in a hopeless situation. Conspiracy theories would proliferate. Some would believe it was divine punishment, others an alien experiment. Still others would deny the grim reality before them. But no matter what, no matter who believed or disbelieved, our world would never be the same. The truth would be revealed, and it would change everything, forever. In the pervasive darkness, only the faint lights of cities would flicker. People would flee for their lives, screams, cries, and prayers echoing everywhere. It would be a scene of humanity confronting its end, an unavoidable end brought about by a power beyond anything we had ever known, a power that was consuming everything in its path. It would be the beginning of an unavoidable end. What would you do if you faced such a situation? Would you fight, or would you surrender? Would you find hope, or would you sink into despair? These are the questions the black hole would pose to us, questions no one ever thought they would have to answer until today, the day when everything was about to change, forever. As the second week and beyond unfold, the situation would deteriorate to a point of no return. Our Earth, once orbiting steadily around the Sun, would begin to drift out of its original orbit, like a ball flung from a string or being drawn ever closer to the black hole. The black hole's immense gravity would tear our world out of its former balance, pulling it into a dark abyss from which there would be no return. Temperatures on Earth would fluctuate to extreme levels. Some areas would become so hot that water would boil into vapor, while others would freeze solid in an instant. Day and night cycles would become distorted. Some days might have prolonged daylight, others might experience months of perpetual darkness, or perhaps there would be no more daylight at all, only an all-encompassing darkness, as if the entire world was being swallowed by emptiness. Global communication systems would collapse. Satellites orbiting Earth would be pulled and torn apart by the black hole's gravity. Phone signals, internet, radio, everything would go silent. The entire world would be cut off, people unable to communicate. Fear and isolation would grip people's hearts. It would be a vision of a world entering a dark age, an age without light, without sound, without even hope. In the pervasive darkness, there would only be the whistling wind and the groaning of a world being destroyed. People would desperately try to survive. Some would build underground shelters, others would try to travel to safer areas. But no matter where they went, no matter what they did, they would not be able to escape the creeping fate. It would be an unavoidable end, an end brought about by a power beyond anything we had ever known, a power that was consuming everything in its path. It would be the beginning of an unavoidable end. What would you do if you faced such a situation? Would you fight, or would you surrender? Would you find hope, or would you sink into despair? These are the questions the black hole would pose to us, questions no one ever thought they would have to answer, until today, the day when everything was about to change, forever. And then the final moments would arrive, the time when our Earth would be drawn close enough to the black hole to feel its terrifying power. It would be a point where nothing could resist, a point where the laws of physics we knew would begin to warp and break down. The first phenomenon to occur would be spaghettification, or being stretched like spaghetti. When any object, including our Earth, approaches a black hole closely enough, The gravitational force on the side closer to the black hole would be immensely stronger than on the side further away. This would cause the object to be stretched, as if pulled by immense forces from two directions. Our bodies, buildings, mountains, oceans, everything would be stretched into fragile strands before being torn into tiny pieces and swallowed into eternal darkness. At the same time, another astonishing phenomenon would occur: time dilation, or the slowing down of time as one approaches a black hole. For those far away, they would see us moving slower and slower until we appeared to freeze in time. But for us, being pulled in, time would continue to pass normally. Only our seconds might become years for others, or perhaps an eternity. In that dark abyss, we might spend only a fleeting moment, but for those watching from outside, it could be millions of years, or perhaps never ending. It would be a journey to the ultimate end, a point where reality and imagination merge, a point where everything we knew would be destroyed and recreated in a form we could not comprehend. It would be a confrontation with emptiness, an emptiness filled with immense power, a power that could tear apart space-time and consume everything. It would be an unavoidable end. How would you feel if you faced these final moments? Would you accept your fate, or would you fight until the very last second? Would you seek meaning, or would you sink into emptiness? These are the questions the black hole would pose to us. Questions no one ever thought they would have to answer until today, the day when everything was about to change forever. In the eternal darkness that the black hole leaves behind, or in the distorted moments we experience, we can't help but ask, what is this universe truly? What is the meaning of our existence? Are we merely specks of dust in a vast emptiness, or are we part of something greater, something we cannot comprehend? Confronting a power beyond anything we have ever known makes us realize our insignificance, the fragility of life, and the grandeur of a universe still full of mysteries and wonders waiting to be discovered. Perhaps the arrival of a black hole might not be an end, but a beginning. A beginning of awareness, a beginning of questioning, a beginning of searching for the true meaning of existence. In that darkness, we might find light, the light of wisdom, the light of understanding, the light of hope that will lead us to new discoveries, discoveries that will change our understanding of the universe and our existence forever. No matter what tomorrow brings, no matter if we still exist or not, one thing we will always remember is that we were once part of a grand story, a story written by a black hole, a story that made us realize the beauty, the terror, and the mystery of the universe. And in that memory, we will live on forever. In the darkness of a black hole, we find the light of meaning.
you.